Ooh, I want to stop.
I want to start.
Yes. Let me. Hold on one second, Christina, and you can go ahead and get started. Okay, go ahead.
Whitney Nicole. Welcome, Whitney Nicole. Please add your club name or names after your name. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the When You Are the Treasurer virtual TLI presentation. Our presenter this morning has been a Toastmaster for 14 years. She has served in various levels of Toastmasters leadership and is passionate about our organization because it changes lives. She joined Toastmasters to improve her leadership skills for promotional opportunities at work. In the first 4 years, she received 3 job promotions and doubled her salary. Ooh. She has served in all club officer roles as a select distinguished area director, two-time president distinguished division director, and select distinguished club growth director for District 33. One of her proudest moments was being chosen District 33 Spark Plug of the Year in 2014-2015. Conducting the Treasurer's Officer Training, please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Lorrie Linnert.
Thank you, Christina. I appreciate everyone being here for the Treasurer's Training, and congratulations on your election. It's such an honor that you are the treasurer of your club. You are your club's accountant, and you are responsible for your bank's money. You're collecting the dues and submitting all the forms to world headquarters. How many of you are new treasurers? And Christina, you're going to have to let me know who are my hands, who are my new treasurers? How many do I have in the room?
There's 20 of us here. I'm guessing all of us are treasurers?
Yes, all of them are treasurers. This is the first time we've done anything like this on Zoom, so it's a little challenging. It's easier when it's in one room. I can see all the hands.
If you're new, you put up the hand signal.
So I saw 2 hands raised. 3. So I have a couple of new people. That means the other people are all experienced Toastmasters at treasurer, which is good. Well, I'm also coming into the treasurer role again after a bit of an absence. So I've done the treasurer role for a period of time, and then someone else stepped up to the role, and now I'm coming back into it. So this was fun to lead the training again, because it allowed me the chance to see what's changed and what's still the same, and to get that back get all that information back. So that was a lot of fun. And then to also see the experiences from my fellow Toastmaster who had the role for a couple of years. So what exactly does a treasurer do? We're going to explore that today. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to see what is the treasurer's role, what is the treasurer's responsibilities, and give you some resources to help you do your job better. Our objectives today: identify your role as the Toastmaster, help you fulfill your responsibilities, and identify your role in the club's mission. And again, find those resources to help you. And today in our club officer training, this is one of those wonderful places for you to find some of those resources. As we identified, we have 20 club treasurers in this Zoom meeting, and 17 of them are experienced treasurers. What amazing resources are those? So the treasurer role, we talked a little bit, mentioned a couple of those things that we already said, but we're going to go ahead and allow people to raise their hand, and we'll just do a little bit. What do you think the treasurer's role is? We talked a little bit, I mentioned a couple things about being the club accountant as being the essence of the treasurer's role, but what do you think some of the things the treasurer does? You're muted, Christina. Julie?
Yes. One of the things I always say is the voice of reason.
I love that. The voice of reason. Yes, absolutely. I'll have someone in the club say, I want to spend $500 on an open house.
Right.
So I only have $200 in the checking account. No, that's not going to work. You're the voice of reason. Yes. Who else?
The one they look for when they're looking for something fun to do. To do that, yes.
Mm-hmm. What else does the treasurer do?
Making sure the club has the money, gets the money that we have coming, but also participates in the club success, whatever our DCP, our club success. I'd be on the team.
Absolutely, Leslie.
The one who asks for renewal dues and pay them to TI.
Fabulous. Yes. And that's one of the key points, because you are responsible for half of your distinguished club point by collecting those membership dues and sending them into Toastmasters International. Yes, absolutely. That's one of your key functionary roles, is to collect those membership dues and send them into Toastmasters International on time. What else?
Make a budget.
Make a budget. By raise of hands, how many of your clubs make a budget every year? I can't see all of the hands, but I hope it's everybody. My club didn't. Oh, 6. 6? Okay, maybe more. That's great. My club did not make a budget for years. Years and years and years, we did not make a budget. Now, we had a healthy account, but it's always, always good practice to make a budget so that you have an idea of what expenses you're going to be making for the future, for that future year. And you can plan ahead for those open houses and other things that you want to do over the course of the year. What else?
The treasurer report on your exco meeting.
Yes, you want to be able to do those financial reports so you can make reports both to your executive committee meeting, your officers meeting, and also to the club. Whenever some big expenditure comes up, you want to know exactly how much money you have at any one time. Perfect. That's great. All right, did we miss anything? I think we missed one thing, and a lot of clubs don't do this either. How about the audit committee? How many of your clubs do an audit committee and actually audit your books? Anybody? Our club is going to do that. Ooh, 9. 9 of you do that? Or that's in the chat? Oh, those are chats. Okay. So they are, we're actually going to do that this year because we're transferring treasurers. We're going to actually do an audit committee and audit the books. But a lot of clubs don't always do as it's suggested in Toastmasters International policy, and that's every year do an audit of the books. I think it's a great idea, but we are gonna do that this year. We don't have a lot of expenditures with our club, especially now that we haven't been writing a lot of checks. We oftentimes, like for our open house, we'll use the debit card or something, and we authorize those expenditures ahead of time so we know what those are. Let's see. Next. So the treasurer's responsibilities. You have responsibilities surrounding the club meeting, outside the club meeting, and then also with the executive committee, with the officers. At the club meeting, you have duties before the club meetings and also during the club meetings. And before the club meetings, as we talked about, you want to prepare that financial report. You want to know exactly where you are financially, how much is in your bank account, and that way if the club wants to make a purchase and it comes up during the business meeting, someone suggests, oh, we want to buy new pins or we want to buy badges for our members getting awards, then we want to know exactly how much is in the account in order to do so. During the club meetings, you want to collect the membership dues. And Christina mentioned that we collect dues for 2 periods, and those are due on October 1st and April 1st. So when do our clubs start sending out dues notices?
February,
Christina?
February and August.
In February and August. I think that's a great suggestion. In the training, it says to send them out 1 month before. So they're suggesting September 1st and March 1st. But TI will usually start collecting, allowing you to start submitting dues payments in mid-August and mid-February. So I also usually start sending out those dues notices in mid-August and mid-February as well. Because a lot of times the the members, especially if a club only meets every 2 weeks, it takes a long time sometimes for members to get their dues in, and they need a couple of reminders. So I give them a little extra time to get those in. So definitely give them a little more notice than 1 month. If you're meeting every week, maybe 1 month is enough, but definitely I would send it out, start sending it out in August and in February. So start collecting those membership dues and send them in as you receive them. Do this online. You can send in payments as you get them. So one at a time. You don't have to wait to get a whole bunch. You don't have to wait to get 8 to send them all in at once, or the whole clubs and send them all in at once. It's a great idea to just send them in as you receive them. Once you get to 8, your club is technically in good standing. However, one thing to keep in mind, you don't want to hold on to those dues, because if a member becomes delinquent, there is no grace period anymore. For some of our older treasurers, you might remember, or seasoned treasurers, sorry, not older treasurers. There used to be a grace period. There isn't anymore. And once you go past that deadline, those members lose access to Basecamp, and everything's online now, unless they have the written materials, but everything is online. So it's critical. They can also lose eligibility for contests. And it's critical that all of those dues get in as they're paid to you. And it's so easy to do it online. Now, how do you collect your dues? Do you still accept just cash check? Do you use some of the more electronic payments? So that's what I want to hear from some of the others. So how many of you are using like a swipe card or Zelle or maybe Venmo?
I use both Venmo and Zelle, or if they prefer to send in the check by mail, I take that too. If they see me, they can pay cash. I take every form except their firstborn.
Fabulous. Steve, I saw a thumbs up from you. What do you take?
You take PayPal and checks and cash.
Okay. Who else had a hands up or thumbs up? Christina, I can't see everybody.
By the way, Lori, Kay Collis has a wonderful sheet to educate a club on how to open a PayPal account.
Wonderful. Maybe she can share it with us.
Maria wants to speak. Maria?
We've been using Venmo, and we've also been accepting cash or check, but typically it's been easiest to use Venmo has been our go-to.
Wonderful. Now, is there any, I know our club was looking at starting Venmo with Viva Las Voices, and they haven't gotten that together yet. Is there any fees with Venmo?
I think well, I'm not sure how our previous treasurer was managing his account, because he was using his personal account and then would go deposit the money in the transfer the money into the account.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, but I suppose it would depend on how quickly you want those funds, like immediately, or give it a day.
Okay.
We do Square and cash.
Okay. And it depends on the different accounts. I know with Square and with PayPal, they're depending on which types you're using. I know at Valley Voices and Vices, we have a swipe with our PayPal, and there is a slight fee with that. And The Square accounts we've used before, those also have a slight transaction fee. Usually when you are moving the money with our PayPal account, it goes directly right into our checking account at Valley Voices and Vices. So that's fantastic. There's no transaction. It's not going into a holding account like our Square account was at one of our other clubs. That went into a holding account, and then we would have to transfer the money into our checking account when we wanted it. And then there was a transaction fee when we would transfer the money.
Maria,
So it just depends on which one what works best for your club. And I'm sorry, somebody wanted to
Maria
speak.
Elena.
Maria?
Maria Elena. You can unmute Marie. Oh, she has a hand raised. Okay. Oh, there she is.
Hi, sorry, I think my hand raised was from before when we were
Oh.
asking who's new to the club treasurer. I didn't know how, oh, I know how to lower my hand now, sorry, just joking. I'm going to remute myself now.
So there's
Lorrie?
some, yes.
I wanted to say we were having only using the checking account for decades. And as soon as I discovered that I could use somebody's card on the Toastmasters website, as long as I had internet access, I would literally at the meeting say, pull out your card, let's do it now. And I would log in, and now I have all the details that I need. Nobody writes anything down. I don't have to remember it, and it gets done 100% quicker because it's their card on Toastmasters. They get an email receipt, boom, done. I didn't have to put it in one, out something else, remember, reimburse. That has worked tremendously recently. Simply saying, let's log in now, or call me later and we'll log in now. And as you're telling me the numbers, I'm going to put them into the Toastmasters site. And that is a godsend to us. I have never thought of using PayPal or anything else. I'm like, just give me your card now.
And
Leslie,
that works
does your
fabulous. I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Leslie, does your club have club dues on top of the international?
We do, and I can collect cash later. I can hit somebody up for $1 at a time until I get that money.
So
Right.
you're
And that's
doing
what I do
twofold.
too. That works out really well at DeVry. And that's what I've been doing at DeVry as well, because sometimes our treasurer isn't there. And as one of the club officers, any club officer can do that. So that wasn't something I was going to point out as well, Leslie, because any club officer can collect dues. So if your treasurer, as the treasurer, you might point that out. If you're not going to be able to be at the meeting and you're coming up to the dues deadline, that is an option, and it has worked out very well at DeVry. I can collect the dues and do exactly what Leslie is proposing. I take the person's credit card, I pay their international dues, and then I either collect a check or cash for the club dues and give that to our treasurer when they're at the next meeting. Or because I'm also on the account, I can deposit it into the checking account for them and give the receipt to our treasurer when I see them. So that also does work for us at DeVry. But that's something to keep it so that we make sure that our dues are paid on time.
I kind of thought of whatever I have to do to get the money to TI, that's what I will do.
Absolutely.
That's my priority, is to get TI's money.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do that. And I also, in addition, Lorrie, I asked them, do you want to pay for 6 months when they're joining, or do you want to pay for a full year? And then I collect that, I pay them in TI right there and then I collect their club dues in cash or check. Whatever.
Another thing I wanted to mention is when you have new members, we're talking about renewals at this point, but when you have new members who are signing up, consider this. We're going into a time when you're going to have new members signing up. If you have a new member signing up at say August, I don't usually even give them the option of paying for 2 months. I roll over those 2 months and have them sign up for 8. So when I'm talking to them and I give them the dues structure, I don't say that they're going to pay for 2 months and then say, oh, you have to renew next month for another 6. I just give them, oh, today it'll be this amount and you'll be paid through March 31st. And so then they're not getting another bill in 2 weeks for another 6 months, because they'll just say, well, I just paid you. So that makes it so much easier. And then they're on the books for 8 months. And then they get acclimated to the club, because so often what will happen is you'll have them for those 2 months, and then maybe they've gotten a couple of speeches under their belt and they get a little confidence and they might leave. Janice has her hand up.
I'm wondering how people are handling collecting money now during this Zoom experience. Can people share about that, since we're not seeing people physically?
Absolutely. So in my clubs, we'll either talk with them over the phone and get their credit card information and pay for it with a credit card over the phone. Our treasurer at Valley Voices and Vices will have them send them a check by mail if they prefer to pay by check. So those are the 2 main avenues. But if you do take Venmo or one of those other payment methods, they can still do those as well. So really, other than cash and meeting face-to-face, any of those other payment methods still apply.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So let's keep going here. But I think that was really important. So outside the club meeting, a lot of these we already talked about. Prepare a budget. And we already mentioned how important this is. Provide a bank with a signatory card. This is really somewhat out of date. Most banks don't even really do actual signatory cards. Most of them that I've worked with, you actually have to appear in person. And US Bank wants every single person who is going to be a signatory on the account in person with you when you go. So I don't know what other banks, I know Nevada State Bank is one that the Toastmasters clubs often bank with. But I know my Viva Las Voices clubs, we require 2 signatures on every one of our checks. So we've gotten away from a lot of our, we don't do a whole lot of checks often because it's sometimes hard to get our check signed, even though the bank, I don't think really cares, but that's our personal club policy. Janice, I'll get to you in just 1 second. So it's hard to get all those people at the bank at one time. So sometimes it takes us a while to get those signatures transferred over with the bank. And go ahead, Janice. Did you have a question?
No, I had a comment because we're going through that now. Just remember to put in your minutes when you have new signers that they have signature authority, because the bank required that when we went over there. I just want to remind everyone.
Yes, I actually have some documents I'll show at the end. Hopefully we should have time. That I'll show you exactly what I had to take to the bank. It's the minutes with the incoming officers, who's going to be on the account, who's going to have signing authority. And in our case, we also had our outgoing treasurer who was not going to be a signing authority. So anybody who's coming off the account, we included that in the minutes as well. And so that was all complete in the minutes. So I can show you a copy of that. We also, they wanted a copy from Toastmasters International of a letter from them. And that was really easy. Toastmasters International is a phenomenal resource for everyone. And I have the email that I can show you I sent to them, and it's irsquestions.org. And I'll show you the email. But you just go to Toastmasters International. There's a link there that you can just put on there and send it to them, and at toastmasters.org. They are amazing at answering all the questions. I sent them a copy of my minutes, told them I needed a letter for the bank, and they put everything in there with my minutes of who our current officers were, who needed to be signature authority, that Toastmasters International was a 501c3 under the umbrella of Toastmasters International, everything that I needed for the bank, and sent me a wonderful letter from them. So I took that to the bank with our club constitution and bylaws, because they wanted that as well. And I had everything that I needed, and with all the people, and we got everything taken care of in one setting. And because I needed like 4 people on the account, because we needed the 2 signatures, it was seamless. It was fabulous. So that sometimes can be a challenge to get everybody on the signatory, depending on what your club procedures are. So then collect and pay dues. We already talked about that. Submit new member applications. That may be via the treasurer, because you're taking the payments, or it could be in conjunction with your vice president of membership. So that you'll work with your team, your officer team, to see who is working on that. Issue checks for club expenses and keep financial records. You are the holder of all of your financial records for the club. Outside the club meeting, again, you are presenting all of your financial reports. You are submitting all the club accounts for audit. We talked a little bit about this. A lot of times the clubs aren't doing this, but I think it's a really good practice to do, especially when you're transferring treasurers to another treasurer. But even if you're not transferring treasurers, maybe discuss it with your club officers and do it every few years. It's a good checks and balances. Attend executive club meetings. These are your officer meetings, and these should be at least quarterly. I really recommend monthly, but at least quarterly. And reconcile deposits, expenditures, and cash on hand. Ensure your club meets government tax regulations. Receive financial correspondence. So every month as the treasurer, you're going to receive anything with the deposits from Toastmasters International, membership dues, and that your president and the treasurer should receive a reconciliation with any membership dues that were paid to Toastmasters International. You'll receive a copy of that, and you should keep that in your files. And then prepare for the audit committee. And a good person for that would be any former treasurers, past presidents, anyone who has any financial experience. With your executive committee, you want to prepare a budget. Any expenses that you might have through the course of the year. Again, one of my clubs, they like to purchase badges for the members who are achieving awards. So we look and see with our DCP program, who's going to be going for awards that year, and work that into our budget. We plan open houses. So we want to look and plan for what are our expenditures for those. Are we going to be having food and refreshments for those open houses and plan for that. Present financial reports at those executive committee meetings. How much money is in our account? And submit the club accounts for audit. Work with the executive committee on a club success plan. Again, you are half of 0.10 on your DCP plan on getting your dues in on time. And that is, again, October 1st and April 1st. Get it in before then. How to fulfill the treasurer's responsibilities. How are you going to do that? When, who, and what? So how are we going to fulfill the treasurer's duties? We are going to, how will you fulfill the responsibility? What specific actions will you complete? Anyone? Leslie, you're muted. I see your lips moving.
But I'm saying, what's the question? How, what, how or
How are
what?
you
Which
going
one?
to complete, how are you going to complete your treasurer responsibility?
We're doing everything digitally, if that's an answer. So keeping digital records.
Absolutely. So you're doing everything digitally.
Diligently and digitally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And how do you with your membership dues, are you submitting those online?
Absolutely. Every single time. Every single one at a time when it needs to be done.
I agree with that. That's a great policy. Anybody else? Someone else doing this differently? Okay, when will this action be completed? So is anybody else doing their, sending out their dues notices at a different time? Doing something differently?
Just one of the things I mentioned earlier in my little message was that what I did for this term was with Square. Every time that I generated an invoice, it gave me an option to send people reminders, and it did it automatically. So I would set up, I think it gives you an option to set up to 5 reminders, and I would only do 3. So maybe send one out like 3 weeks before the due dates are due, maybe another one 2 weeks before, and then the last one a week or maybe 3 days before the due date that I give the everybody in the club, so that way I can have enough time to get the dues in time to the Toastmasters International's website.
That's a great idea, Evelyn, and I remember getting one of those. So that's a fabulous idea. There's also a great, I mean, it's a little, yes, and that's exactly, I don't know who said that, Leslie. That just triggered a reminder for me too. There actually is a module in Free Toast Host that allows you to send dues reminders, and you can actually track who has paid their dues and whether they've paid by cash check, and then send them reminders as well for anyone who hasn't paid. And it has, because it tracks it via your membership, it has everybody's name, and it allows them to track and send them reminders. And I've actually used the tool. It's a little funky with the reminders and the forms, how you customize the form, but it works, and it's at least a decent tracking tool to allow you to send reminders via the website and to your members without having to just send them via email and not necessarily know who's getting them and if they're getting them and all that. So it is a decent tool. Let's see, who's available to help you? Well, your team, other treasurers like everyone here on the call. I'm available. I had my contact information on the first slide. So definitely reach out to other people. If you have any questions, Toastmasters International, they have amazing resources, as I mentioned. When I sent that email and said, I was able to get everyone together and I have an appointment on Friday, can you get me this letter as soon as possible? This was like Tuesday. They had me the letter the next day. They are just a phenomenal resource. What materials and resources can you use? There are some amazing tools on Toastmasters International. Did you know that because we are a 501c3, that if any member of your club donates money to your club, they can take a tax deduction, and there is a receipt that you can give them. There's a form in Toastmasters International in the resources that you can type and give them a receipt for their tax deduction, and you can keep a copy for your records. So if it's a cash donation, you can give them not dues, but for above and beyond dues, that you can give them a receipt for that donation. So that's an amazing, there are amazing resources on Toastmasters International. So your resources, again, attend district-sponsored club officer training program. You're here today, yay! Congratulations. Read materials, your club leadership handbook. That is available as a free download on Toastmasters International. There are some great resources on that and some great information. So please read that. It's like 4 pages for the treasurer's information. It was last updated February 2020. So I always recommend download it every year. They revise it every year. I have it on my desktop. There's amazing information there. Please download the latest copy and read it. Meet your outgoing executive committee and meet with your outgoing treasurer if there is one. Meet with your current executive committee and review the policies and protocol, especially with fundraising. I actually have that I will pull up here in a second. Does everyone know about the fundraising protocols for your club? That we can't tie ourselves to any other group. We can't have canned food drives or anything that's going to jeopardize our Toastmasters name. We need to be very cognizant of our Toastmasters brand, and you need to be very, like when we were talking at the very beginning, we are the voice of reason, and as our treasurers, and not only with our financial fiduciary responsibility, it's our responsibility to protect our Toastmaster brand as well. So that's very important. Review our record keeping and financial information, and I do have that we'll pull up. Review records, financial reports, audit committees, reports, provide bank with the signatory card, create record keeping system if needed. And there are your additional resources. Now, I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to go to my protocol. Did I miss where to find the PowerPoint? Yes, it is on Toastmasters International. I'm going to go through the chat really quickly. So thank you, Carolyn, for bringing that up. It is on Toastmasters International. This PowerPoint is being recorded and will be put on the district website as well. Fillable donation form on the receipt. Thank you for posting that link, Leslie. TI is extremely responsive. Yes, Phil, thank you. They are. Any situation that comes up. There are no tax regulations for Nevada Toastmasters Club. Thank you for bringing that up, Phil, as well. I do remember when we had to do the tax filings, but we don't anymore. Unless you're making over like $25,000 a year for your club, and I don't think any of our clubs are. So I think we're good. U.S. Bank only requires someone from the account to come with the new person. Oh, see, now that wasn't true with my club this last year. We all had to go. Oh, branches can vary. Thank you for the red card, Christina. We still have some time for questions and answers. So I'm kind of running through the chats here. Yes, I agree. Get them to join as soon as possible.
I have a question, Lori.
Yes, Leslie, go ahead.
For those that are here that are using Venmo, is it set up like Square where it goes directly to the club account so that somebody transfers it there? How if somebody who's using it, tell me how that works or
Leslie?
how it's intended.
Yeah, so Leslie, I think we've used the Square before and it was charging our bank a monthly deal, even if we're using it or not. We're like, no, it's not right. So we dropped that. So Venmo, I know has not charged us anything. Now Zelle, my last transaction this week for a new member said they'll charge us 2.5% for a business transaction. And I said, this is not a business transaction. But they said, no, they're waiving those for us because we're a 501 C3, whatever, nonprofit thing. So what they do is they text you that so-and-so this person has paid you by Zelle, and then you look at the bank account. Usually I'll wait till that night for it to post to the bank the next day, and then I pay their dues the next day. So once it goes inside the account, it doesn't have a holding place, it just goes there, but it notifies you the day before. Usually it's instant, unless the payer says, oh, I want to pay standard, it would take about 3 days to post to your account. Usually, I have not been charged.
So for a Venmo account, is it set up like a Square account where the money goes directly to the club account is my question.
That's what you set it up with. You set it up with a particular account. If you set it up with your personal, it goes to your personal account and you transfer. If you put it in your bank account, the club account, it should go there. Yeah. That's a question, right? Thank you. Other questions? Evelyn? No? Brad, do you have any?
I have a question.
Yes.
Let's say I'm not sure that our club has prepared a budget. Typically, we're not purchasing the badges or, on a regular basis. Now, I certainly feel like there's a good reason to create one, but I'm not sure what's the best approach for a small club who doesn't typically do a bunch of events or have a lot of members. Mm-hmm. And so I was wondering what your advice would be for that.
To start, maybe go back through your last, are you the outgoing, or have you been the treasurer the last couple of years, or are you the new treasurer? Just a new treasurer?
I'm a new treasurer. I mean, I've been a treasurer before, but not for Toastmasters.
Okay, maybe check with your outgoing treasurer as well, and maybe you could go over the last couple of years to just start doing a budget. Go over the last couple of years and see if you had expenses over a couple of years. So obviously you're going to have membership dues in October and April. That's going to be one of your big expenses. And beyond that, see where you might have had a couple of other expenses for the club. Maybe you bought supplies at certain times of the year, and you could put in a nominal amount for supplies in a couple of times during the year. And maybe plan for an open house and put a nominal amount for that. or a special event for the club.
Mhm.
And that way you can actually use that as a planning tool for your club to plan events too for the year, and use that for your officers meeting and actually plan ahead for some things.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
It also added, Maria, when our club thought that we might want to do meetup, which you must pay for. So for a marketing plan for the club, you may decide you want to have expenses. Maybe you wanted to pay for a Zoom account or pay for meetup or pay for things that you might want to do, pay for a sign or a banner. It's marketing expenses as well. Think of it as a micro business. If we had marketing expenses, that type of a thing, or if we need to pay venue fees. We've paid venue fees over the years and we've not paid venue fees.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Yeah,
planning
those
for what you might need money for. I went in and looked at how much it costs to get ribbons, and maybe you don't want ribbons. Maybe you want something else. Maybe you're going to print certificates. Who's going to print them? How much does it cost? It's kind of figuring out how do we want to do recognition too, and how
Yeah.
might those become upcoming expenses so that you could plan for them.
Lori,
Right. Phil says
Lori,
keep it simple, and I agree with that. Keep it as simple as you can.
Lori, one point that we haven't brought up. No treasurer can spend money unless the
No.
club votes on it.
That's
So
correct.
you bring up things in the executive committee, and
Right.
then someone brings it up in the business portion of the meeting, and it gets voted on to spend the money, and it's in the minutes. So as treasurers, it's our fiscal responsibility to make sure that no money is spent unless it is voted on by the club.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yep, that's absolutely true.
Now, there's certain exceptions from that. Some clubs usually have a limit of, say if it's within, if below 25, and you usually every year you purchase your trophies and things for your contest. You say, we will be purchasing the trophies, the materials for the contest. And it doesn't need to be voted because it's already in the budget and it's a yearly expense, but you already know it does not have to exceed this amount. So we don't have to convene for such thing, but it's already pre-approved.
Every club is different. As I mentioned with Viva Las Voices, we've already approved in our policies that we buy the badges for our club members who have received awards. So that's already in our minutes and policies that we do that. And so any purchase that is less than $50, we go ahead and approve that purchase for badges, for instance. And so if we know, if the BP Education knows that someone's getting an award, they just go ahead and order the badges, and then they know they're going to get reimbursed, so that we can make that recognition at the next available meeting.
Hello. Hi, I was just wondering if anyone knew, I'm new as treasurer, where to find information on refunds. I know we had a member that joined and then left the company. We're a corporate club like 2 weeks after. Like, where can we find information on refunds?
Refunds of membership dues?
Right.
So unfortunately, the Toastmasters International does not refund membership dues, and it is on the membership application that the member signed that it is not refundable. So if it's very clearly on the membership application.
Okay.
So unfortunately, they can transfer to another club. So if say, for example, because you are a corporate club, if the member left the company or something like that, they can transfer their membership to another club that would work for them. And so that might work for them, but the membership dues are not refundable.
Okay, all right, I'll look online for that and see if that's an option that she might want to do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Friends, we're still on green.
Oh, well, I did have two in the chat. So my other question was about that donation clause that you mentioned.
Uh-huh.
Is it just for members, or is it third party as well? Like if, you know, somebody else wanted to donate to the club, would they be able to write that off? Do you know
Oh,
offhand?
that's a really good question. I know that like with district donations, they do take corporate donations. Steve, do you know the answer on that one?
Maybe
Like broken houses?
The question was.
So can third
donation.
party donate, or is it just members that can do the tax write-off?
Well, we have a member who is fairly well-to-do, and when renewals come about, we don't just send invites. We actually call people. Every member is physically called if they haven't done their money. And if we find that there are a few that are financially scrapped, this person will donate, and we call it a scholarship. So that person had paid for 2 people's memberships for 6 months. Now they could, if they want, ask the chapter for something in writing, and we would be able to give it to them, and they would be able to deduct that. However, they never do.
Okay, so that's a great tip. So one thing that I did want to mention too about like the scholarships, you can't use members' dues
Club money. You can't
for
use
anything
club
like
money.
right. It's outside fees or other donations for that. One thing that one of my other clubs does is brag bucks. And so you can brag about anything if you give a buck. And we do that at the end of the meeting. And we use that money for not so much scholarships, but just other things to help support the club. But it could be used to supplement the club and other things. That could be used for, say, scholarships or something, because it's not members' dues. Just so you know that, read the policy and protocol on fundraising and be mindful of that.
Yes, I was told specifically when somebody asked if the club can pay for a member who's trapped for a renewal.
Mm-hmm.
We're told specifically not from the club dues. So
correct.
You can use your own funds from your own bank account, but not your club bank account. If you want, correct, like what Steve was saying, yeah, person can use their own personal fund, but not the club funds to pay for somebody's, because that's not allowed.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions?
Yep.
Or are we all heading to the next? Oh, there is no next after.
There is no next till this afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining the treasurer training. Again, we're here for you. We are a wonderful resource of treasurers. And again, Toastmasters International is an amazing resource as well. I hope you got all your questions answered. And again, I hope you have everything you need. Good luck. Congratulations on your election, and have an amazing year.
Lorrie,
yes.
Just to recap, where can we find the recording of this presentation? Do you send it to us, or do we go to District 115?
It's going to be posted probably within the next week at the District 115 website.
Another question is for those treasurers who are not able to come because they may be working. Is there a makeup aside from the second one this afternoon?
They announced that there is going to be a makeup training on July 18th.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. She did a great job. Please give her Jimmy has a hand up.
I just want to say I'm very green at this, and Lorrie, you were outstanding, and all the other experts. I feel confident now that at least I have a base to start with thanks to all of you. So applause to all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Great job, Lori.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.